Hey everybody, my name is Jennifer. This is Metatron speaking. I'm going to be talking to you today about dreams. Um, I actually had a really unique dream last night, so I wanted to talk to you all about it. Um, you may or may not know this. I've mentioned this before in other videos. Dreams are never really like just dreams. Dreams are um, normally, dreams are like one of a couple things. One, it could be um, that you are actually not dreaming whatsoever, that you are actually in a spiritual realm doing work. And as light workers, this is more common than we realize, which is kind of why I'm bringing up my dream from last night. Um, Another thing that you might be doing is, and this is common if you have like repeating dreams, like me. So if you have dreams that repeat, or sometimes even when you don't, dreams can be an opportunity for you to practice a new perspective or like a lesson that you're actually trying to work on in real life. And so the last time that I made a video about dreams, I was actually telling you about this dream where, because I have this recurring dream where I'm always like, I'm always away from home. I'm always like trying to gather up my things in order to get back home. And there's always a bunch of drama in between that, right? And I never get home. I never get home. I never get home. Well, I made a video because one time I actually finally got home, and it's because I left my luggage behind and I left my identification behind, and that's how I got home. And it was symbolic of other things. And then I was all proud of myself. I was like, "Hey guys, I must have like learned something. I must have completed something because I've never gotten to this part of the dream." Well, after that dream, I still continue to have a related dream where I'm trying to gather up my stuff and I'm trying to get home. I have that like 2 or 3 times a week, so I didn't graduate anything. I still have it. Just wanted to tell you guys. But that's not what I wanted to talk about today. So last night I had a dream that was disturbing, to be honest. I was disturbed. Um, it's one of those dreams where when you wake up from a dream and you're like, I'm not going back to bed just in case when I go back to bed, I go back to that dream because I don't want to go back. It was like that. So I woke up and I didn't want to go back to bed. It was already the morning, so it didn't matter. I'm going to pull up my notes because I woke up from it and my guides were like, write it down, write it down. And I'm like, oh, so I was trying to write down notes. So I'm going to try to explain this to all of you. So I'm going to go through the dream as it appeared to me. And then I'm going to go through the dream with what was really happening in the spiritual world. And then I'm going to talk about the bigger lessons from it that are for me, but they're also for everyone else watching. So, my dream started off like pretty nice. I was like out walking in the sunshine. So, to help you, man, how am I going to explain this? So, I'm out walking in the sunshine and I'm like holding someone's hand, and the person's hand that I'm holding, this is one of my friends from childhood, and his soul is the same soul as Archangel Raphael and the guide that stays with me all the time on the left that protects my body. I've had lots of past lifetimes with him. He's a soulmate of mine. So I have this dream and I'm holding this person's hand, and in the dream, they are my fiance, and I'm younger than I am now. So it almost felt like it was back in time, except all these details were different. Anyways, I'll get back to that later. Okay, so I'm holding my fiance's hand. We're out in the sunlight. Everything's lovely. Um, he had a sister who in real life, he does not have a younger sister. In this dream, he had a younger sister only. I love his sister. Um, his mother, this was weird. His mother had asked me, she's like, I just bought this music. I want to listen to it. Can you tell me and make sure it's like safe for me to listen to? So in this dream, I'm doing spiritual work, even though I'm younger, even though things are very different in this dream. She gives me a cassette. Hello, a cassette, like from the 1980s. She gives me a cassette and she's like, "Is this safe to listen to?" And so I'm holding it and I'm like, "Oh no." Like I can feel what I would describe as like cult energy on the music. So I was like, "You don't want to listen to this." And I like threw it across the room. So then the dream is moving along, and I become aware that there are men that want to take me. They want to capture me and take me back somewhere. And I'm very cocky about it. I'm like, you know, I I don't know why they're bothering. They can't get me. That kind of energy. Um and then I this is what I said in the dream, which is going to sound weird now, but what I said in the dream was they think I'm a prostitute, but I don't do that. Is what I remember myself saying in the dream. And so the next thing I see is that me and my fiance are in a bar with a bunch of like his friends and like strangers. So we're in this dark bar, and I recognize, and his sister's there. And that's right. It was so in the dream, I'm in the dark bar and I'm lying to people around me. I'm I don't know why. So I'm lying. I know I'm talking about how I'm in an open relationship, which I'm not in that lifetime. Like I'm in an open relationship, and I'm his sister, my fiance, and his sister are both there playing along with this lie. Strange. Okay. So the guys who are trying to capture me show up to the bar, and I'm like, oh shoot, because I'm like, they can get me here. So I look around for my fiance. He is gone. So I'm like, oh, I see his friend. Fiance's best friend is there with his girlfriend, or I'm assuming it's his girlfriend. And so I go to him and I'm like, hey, there are people here and they're going to try to come take me. Well, next thing I know, they had taken me. Um, so this is strange. So we're in the bar and I get led through this spot in the wall that's not even a doorway, right? There's not even a doorway there. It just opens up and I get pushed through the wall with these men who have come to get me. And I'm taken to somewhere that is very dark. I'm and so the men who have taken me, they are part of some kind of cult, and I'm there now in this really, really dark space. It's like pitch black. I'm with whoever the leader is, plus two other high-ranking people, and whoever it is that pushed me through the wall to put me into this space. The only thing that's even lit up is there's like this red light that's lit up a little bit in the distance, not super in the distance, at a distance. There's a red light, and the red light is lighting up this space where I can see um, where there are like a spot for like handcuffs or like to like restrain a person. Um, and so this is what I wrote. I said, they owned me. It's like I didn't want to be caught because they owned me, is what I kept saying in my head, which is strange to say. Um, the red lights where that the chains was where they were going to take me to chain me up. So the leader and the two higher ranking people were like taking off their clothes because they were going to be assaulting me. Um, so suddenly there's somebody else who is dressed like a cult member who's not actually part of the cult apparently. Um, who kind of puts their arm around me and leads me away, and I go through another wall and I'm out of the dark space. So I go through another wall. I'm out in the sunlight now, surrounded by like old missions, which I don't even know how to explain what a mission is. Um they have a bunch of them in like California. They probably have some in Texas too, if I think about it. But it's like old clay housing um type things. Um so the person who had led me into this new space, they're gone. They are gone. I'm in this new space. I look around and guess what? There's a bunch of cult members again. It's not the same ones that I was with. It's new ones, and I'm not scared of them. Scared of the ones in the other space, 100%. I'm not scared of these ones, but they already are around me, and I know that I need to just do what they do, follow them, and no one gets hurt, kind of thing. So I'm kind of going with them, and I look, there's a bus that has pulled over to the side of the road. Everyone's gotten out of this bus. Everyone is wearing red. They have the children lined up in a line, and we have the adults and like teenagers standing behind them. Um, the children were being lined up to be killed. The adults and the teenagers were um, angry. They were angry. They weren't sad. They were upset. They were angry. And when they saw me, they got really angry because I was now dressed like these cult members who were running everything. And so they were like, you're responsible for this. So they were saying all these like very like hateful, judgmental type things as I'm going by. And so I'm being taken along by these cult members, and they're like, we need to run. We need to, because we're like headed towards one of the missions, we need to run and we need to duck down behind these walls because there was an explosion that was going to go off. And so we're doing that. An explosion goes off, which I assume is what it was supposed to kill those people, those children that were lined up. And the force like hits all of us really hard because we got thrown back against the wall, and some of the walls had like damage on them from the force of being thrown back against them. So then during the confusion, I'm like, okay, this is a good time for me to try to escape. There was again, there was an individual again who's dressed like the cult members. And just so you know, we all almost are just like monks or something from back in the day because we're all wearing brown, like a brown robe with a hood, all wearing it. And so somebody again with the brown robe and the hood comes over to guide me, but they are not one of the cult members. They're somebody who's working for the light, essentially. So they take me, and there's a special entrance they want me to go through, and they were coaching me how to go through it. They're like, you have to go feet first, you have to go face up. Like I was laying down to slide through something, and they're like, you have to be face up. Okay, you can't bend in this certain way. So I do that, and next thing I know, I'm inside part of this mission, and it's this old room that's supposed to be like an old rundown school room. There's all these seats for sitting down, but and it's just dirty and dusty. And so I go through, and as soon as I go through, I start helping other people so I can see other people's feet coming through, and these are children. And they're dressed like the cult members, but they don't want to be part of this. And so they start coming through, and I keep helping them all in. And they're sitting down in these chairs, and we're filling up the chairs. And let me make sure I don't forget anything. Yeah, one child was crying and wanted her mother, and she was sitting down near me. And I remember I was like brushing her hair back off of her face, and I was like, "Yeah, it's okay. Like we're gonna get you right back to her. Just that's where we're taking you." Um, And then the last thing I remember is one of the cult members that I had brought through that wasn't really a cult member. It was a child, an older child. She looks at me and she's like, I know you. And she starts telling me things about my life. Um, and so this is complicated because she tells me things that are true about my this life, my real current life, but she tells me other things that did not happen in this current life, but I recognize them as being true. And so I was like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, that happened. Oh my gosh, you do know me." And I was like really in shock that they recognized me. And then whoosh, I woke up. I got pulled right out of there. So let's talk about this dream because the reason I want to go through this with you is I want to help you to identify when you're having dreams and you think they make no sense. If you really sit there and think about it for a second, you might easily be able to figure out what this means on a spiritual level. So I want to tell you about this one. I'm not sure. I know some of you have had to have done similar things. I know you have to have. So let's talk about it. Because basically, what was really going on, um, well, first, I started off in, so this is strange right off the bat because when I started off, I was with somebody I knew, but I was in a situation that I never was in with that person, right? So it's like, oh, my best friend, I know you. We were never engaged. We were never dating. So it's like, it's different. I was in a parallel timeline. So I was in a parallel timeline. I was connecting to that. When we went, and then you'll remember, so and it was we were in the fourth dimension in the beginning when it was like we're out in the sunlight and we're holding our hands and everything's fine. And I'm like, oh yeah, those bad guys want to get me, but they can't get me. I'm in 4D. Well, then we went to the bar that was dark, and it doesn't matter that it was a bar. There's nothing wrong with going to a bar. Um, but symbolically, I had changed spaces and it had gotten darker, and I had switched over into a 3D space. And now in a 3D space, demons have access to us, right? Just like on Earth, we're in a 3D world. Demons have access to us now. Those men who wanted to come get me were demons. So I was like, oh, shoot, they can get me now. The interesting thing is, I was trying to get caught because here's the thing. I am a really horrific liar. I don't like lying. I don't lie. Like I just don't do it. I don't do it in this lifetime, and I have a feeling I don't really do it in most any lifetimes because even um in that dream, in that parallel lifetime, it was like it was uncomfortable. Even though I was like, yeah, I need to do this. So I was lying. I was trying to deceive people. I was trying to lower my vibration. I was trying to call in these energies essentially. Wait for it. This is nuts. Um so they took me, and when they took me and I went through that like wall, I went into another dimension after I went through that wall. But they didn't take me down to 2D. They took me down to 1D. So when I was in that pitch black space where I knew I was going to be sexually assaulted and restrained, that was 1D. The leader was like the devil, essentially, and whoever his high ranking people are. The when I got pulled out of that space into the sunlight again and I was out at the missions, I was in 2D at that point. So 2D, the second dimension, which is part of the astral realm, which is part of where people can go through when they die, depending on their circumstances. Um, you'll remember the bus was pulled over. The bus was broken down or pulled over. The people were outside the bus. The children were going to get killed. The adults were angry. Everyone was wearing red. Red is like the root chakra, right? Red is associated with fear and anxiety and anger. And so all that energy, the energy of mass casualties, the energy of um, division and hatred and being against one another, that's 2D energy. And so that's what was being shown to me. So I understood where I was. When after the explosion happened, and and I should mention this. So every time I'm like in chaos, there's always this person who looks like they're a monk or a cult member, and they always lead me into the next higher dimension. So every time that's one of my guides. So again, one of my guides moves me after the explosion to go through some kind of entrance, some kind of portal that put me into that room that looked like a schoolhouse to me. So when you're having these dreams, your brain or your guides are going to be feeding your brain situations that you can make sense of. They can't show me the actual proper, like, first dimension, second dimension. It's going to mess me up really badly. They don't do that. And so they're showing me things that help me understand the energy, but also make sense to the brain. So when they put me in this room that looks like an old schoolhouse and it's all dirty, it was just like, oh, I was like, okay, well, it's safe here. Like there wasn't, there were no cult members inside the room, right? They were outside. So I was like safe from them, even though they were close by. They were just on the other side of the glass windows or whatever. Um, but also, I'm like, oh, but it's still kind of yucky in here. It's still 3D. Like I could still tell, I'm like, oh, this is not a place I want to stay forever. Um, so whoever it was, and this is another point I need to make. There are no children in the astral realm. None. If a child dies, the child gets escorted by Archangel Michael right back to Creator. Same thing with pets. They just, babies. None of them are going. None of them stay in the astral realm. They all just get escorted right through. So when I was seeing children being lined up to be killed, or when I'm pulling children through the little entry point into that schoolhouse, they aren't really children. They're being shown as children for symbolic purposes, um like people who cannot assist themselves, people who need help, that kind of energy, but it's not truly children. The individuals, the children that I was helping into that room, those were souls that needed help getting out of the astral realm. So there's a lot of times where people die and you're supposed to travel through this astral realm. Like theoretically, you die in the 3D, um you enter into the 3D portion of the astral realm theoretically. And then there's like this white light tunnel and you need to just see it and go to it and go through it. No big deal. Takes you back to the higher dimensions. Sometimes people are resistant to dying, or they don't know they died, or they don't want to be dead. Sometimes people are in a lot of fear or hatred or some other kind of lower energy that pulls them into like the second dimension or the first dimension. But at any rate, these souls had, for some reason, been stuck in the astral realm. And moving souls out of the astral realm is something that I do now. while I'm awake. Um, and so these were souls that needed to be moved on, that you have to have there has to be a body involved. So think of it this way. Um, and now I'm thinking about it because I'm like, does there have to be a body involved? And he's saying yes, but the thing is, oh man, okay, I can see why. So typically, if you pass away, you go to the astral realm. Let's say you get kind of stuck there. You're like, huh, I didn't realize I was dead. This looks kind of like, because here's the problem. In 3D, the 3D portion of the astral realm, and as you can see, even the 2D portion of the astral realm looks just like regular life. It's not, it still has all the holograms. It still has the buildings and the roads and the trees. Like, it's not clear that you've entered a different dimension other than the emotional energy is intense as you go down. But some places on earth are like that, right? So typically the archangels will just come in, Michael, and try to help you move forward, and you can choose whether you listen to him or not. There's some reason that they needed me to do this in a body. There had to be something that I cleared, but when did I clear that? Something about me pulling their legs through when they were coming through that entry point was me clearing something off of them. And see, and I don't know what it was because it doesn't look spiritual in the dream. It just looks basic in the dream. But there's some reason they needed me to do that. So my dream was really to go help people move out of the astral realm. It's very specific, people, apparently. It's interesting that in this dream, the demons and even the devil were associating themselves with religion. So this is actually something that's very commonplace. So if you have interacted with, if you've like ever seen a demon in a dream or in a vision, a lot of times they will have on um, clothing that maybe makes them look important or like part of a hierarchy. Like, oh, I'm just like a pope. I'm just like, whatever hierarchies there are in religion. Um, because they're into that. They're into power, power over other people, status. And the reason I kept calling it a cult was because they had complete power over whoever was in their space, which is accurate. If you're in 1D or 2D, they have complete control over your space. Um, okay, so that's kind of the symbolism of what was going on in the dream. I want to talk about kind of the lessons that each of us can take from this, because if you'll notice, like, here's the thing: when I woke up, I was like, I looked right at my guide here. This is my guardian angel. This is the one who is the same soul as the one who was holding my hand in the beginning of the dream. And I was like, where were you? Like, you were in that bar with me. Everyone came and you disappeared. Like, why did you leave me? Where did you go? Um, and so I had to like pull oracle cards to like understand everything. And he's like, this was this happened the way it was supposed to happen. So he was there the whole time. Were you? I don't know. He was not the. So you remember how I kept having a guide show up who would like push me through to the next dimension? It was not him. It was somebody else. Who was it? It had to be an archangel. I don't know. It probably doesn't matter. It was some archangel. That was not him. That was pushing me through to the other side. And I get no to Michael, which is interesting too. At any rate, So I felt like I was alone, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm literally walking through hell. I'm literally in hell. And I feel like nobody is with me. And then at the last possible second, it's like, bloop, get pushed on to the next dimension. And then the same thing happens where it's like, okay, I'm out of that hell, but I'm in this new hell. And then at the last second, they're like pushing me through. So it's almost like a testament to our lifetimes, right? Because we're on this 3D planet that can sometimes dip into like a 2D energy, or in really horrific moments, a 1D energy. And we feel like we're all alone and we're like, why aren't you protecting me? Why aren't you saving me? Why aren't you blocking all the problems? And they can't block anything that's supposed to happen. But whenever whatever's supposed to happen is done, they move you on over to the next spot, kind of thing. Um, so even though it feels like for us, it's like kind of scary, right, to go through life because we're like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to predict next. And it's like your guides have the roadmap and they're like, yep, you're here, but now we're going to move you on out. And they're always working towards a solution. I'm not sure, like, still, I'm not sure why. Okay, they're explaining it. Because I was like, I don't know why they had to take me to 1D. Was that really necessary? Um, but they said that they needed me they needed me to be with the demons. And so I baited in the demons, right? I'm like lying. I'm in a 3D space. I'm lying. I'm like trying to lower my vibration, trying to whatever. Um, by the way, I don't have any problems with people who are in an open relationship. I don't know why that was the lie I was telling. I don't even know if that means anything at all, but that's what I was talking about in the bar. Um, totally lost my train of thought thinking about that. Oh, so they needed me to be with the demons. So I baited them in the bar. The demons came and got me. And of course the demons dropped me off with the boss because that's who wants me the most is the boss. So that was their choice to put me there. And then it was like, oh shoot, we got to get her higher up because we just need her to access these souls that are in 2D to pull them into 3D. And so we were in that 3D schoolhouse. I have no idea what that was. I'm like, was that a spaceship again? Like, why was I loading up the seats? There were a bunch of seats in there. So it looks like a schoolhouse, right? To my brain. But was I loading up a vehicle so that we could go somewhere else? I don't know. I don't know. And the other weird thing is that that was a parallel lifetime, which adds a lot of confusion to it because I'm like, so that was parallel lifetime me that was doing the work, but I was just viewing it. Like, it's really strange. Um, okay, but at any rate, if you're having dreams, and here's the thing: if you're having dreams that repeat over and over again, take a look to see how you could be doing things different in the dream in order to change the outcome. Because whatever you're doing, you keep getting the same result, right? So you got to change something. So that's one thing. If you're having dreams where you're like, ooh, that was a nightmare, then you're interacting with demons. You may or may not be doing work in the astral realm. Um, you'll know by just reviewing the dream and kind of the details of what's going on there. Sometimes we just have dreams where there are demons that are kind of just messing with us to scare us, and there's really no other point. It's really just to lower our vibration in this lifetime. So you might be experiencing that as well. Um, okay, I feel like that's that's kind of the gist of everything that I want to tell all of you. I didn't like write very, detailed notes on this, and I feel like I'm still processing the experience. Yeah, I'm totally still processing the experience. I'm like still thinking about it. Okay, this is everything that I have for you guys. I hope you found it interesting, or maybe there was like a little nugget of information in there that's useful to you. I hope you found something. If not, I hope you were entertained, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye. Surprise! This video is not over yet. I thought it was, but when I went to start putting this video together and editing it, I started doing some additional research because I had mentioned missions and I couldn't quite explain to you what they were because I didn't quite 100% know. Um, and I realized that missions are something that's not everywhere in the world, that this was kind of something specific to probably the California coast, Southern California, where I grew up. And so as I started researching about these missions, more information started coming up. And it kind of led to all these realizations that I want to share with all of you. So, when I was researching what the missions were, let me actually just tell you what I pulled up because I was going to include this in the description and then it just became too much because I kept having all these realizations. So, this is the little definition or history background on missions that I looked up for all of you. The first Spanish explorers set foot in what is now the state of California in 1542, but their presence was transitory, exploratory in nature, and did not result in the establishment of a permanent colony. These early explorers viewed California as a hostile wilderness without the enticement of gold-rich native cultures as encountered in Mexico and South America. Okay. Let's see. At that time, Spain found its colonies threatened by rival imperial empires. So, in particular, the Spanish crown worried about the Russians coming over and taking their land, specifically like California and Alaska. Seeking to block the Russians from advancing into their area, the Spanish led an expedition to establish a new colony in Alta California. Several Franciscan priests accompanied him. Their primary task was to establish a series of missions. This is what I'm talking about in California, and convert the native populace. The native populace are the Native Americans, and convert the Native Americans to Roman Catholicism. This is important. The primary goal of California's Franciscan missions, which are the ones I'm talking about, was to transform the Native American peoples into Roman Catholics as well as productive subjects of the Spanish crown. To that end, the friars rigidly controlled the religion, education, sexuality, politics, and labor of the native peoples who came into the missions either voluntarily or at the end of a musket. A musket is like a gun, like at the end of a weapon. So these were not nice people. Okay, so all these bells are going off in my brain now. The friars that they were talking about, I saw a picture of them. So the friars that ran these missions, guess what they were wearing? Brown robes with a hood. Okay, so that is exactly what I was seeing in that dream that I saw myself in, that I saw all the demons, well, not demons, they were demons. I saw the demons wearing those, and I was like, it's some kind of cult. Like, I couldn't quite place what it was, but my brain was registering there was a religious component and there was a component of controlling and homogenizing and making everyone do the same thing, right? Everyone's gonna follow the same rules. So that's why I kept saying cult, 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 because I can only feel the energy. I didn't know the technical logistics in the 3D world. So So basically, those people that I helped move over, those were Native Americans. Those were Native Americans. And it makes sense now because that little girl who was asking for her mom, and I remember I pushed her hair back on her face, and she had brown skin and she had black hair. And I didn't realize she was Native American at the time because she was part of the cult. She was wearing the stupid friars outfit. She was wearing that brown robe. She wasn't wearing anything that would distinguish her to me as being Native American, especially like me personally. This lifetime, I grew up in California. We grew up with a huge Latino population. Like, it just didn't register to me whatsoever. um the people that were on that bus had black hair and they had brown skin, and again, it didn't mean anything to me because I grew up around a lot of people who look like that, so it didn't trigger me as something special, as something different, as something to pay attention to, but it was relevant because they were Native American. Why were they so angry? Well, hello. If you are a Native American and somebody comes in and they try to control your life, control your culture, tell you what to do, tell you what to wear, tell you what to think, tell you how to have sex, tell you what religion you are, that's why they were so angry. That's why they looked at me and they're like, oh, you're one of them? I hate you. So the Native Americans, they would have trauma reasons. Honestly, they would have trauma reasons to stay attached to the land because when you die in a traumatic fashion, a lot of times you stay attached to that land. The reason they passed away and they were still connected wasn't trauma. I realize now, after thinking about it for a hot second, that they had something called a soul vampire attached to them. So a soul vampire, just for your knowledge, is it's a dark energy. It is sent from one person to another. There has to be a person in a body. So in this case, in whatever time period this was taking place, um, or that they lived in, because we were technically, when I went into that dream, we were in the afterlife. We were in the astral realm. They were already dead. They were just kind of reliving traumas. So whenever they were alive, those friars were alive. The friars had demonic attachments. That's why the demons are showing up like friars. To me, it was no different because I'm in the spiritual world, right? So while those friars were alive, because they have this attachment that allows them to send dark energies, it's not just a demonic attachment. Because when you have a soul vampire attachment, it is a person in a body who has a dark galactic attachment, and this is a really specific kind of dark energy. They send this dark energy to the person. It doesn't harm the person during their lifetime. It harms the person when they die, because when they die, the dark energy is attached to the energy body, not the physical body. Energy body, which is your true body, your true self is your energy body. So the body dies and falls away. The dark energy is still attached to the energy body. This energy is so dark, it is not able to go through that white light tunnel that takes you back into the higher dimensions, because this is such a low vibration, you can't go through. You have to have this removed in order to go out. So when I was pulling them through that entryway, my guides are explaining that is when I was doing, with their help for sure, the removal of these soul vampire energies so that they could now go back through the white light tunnel, which I never saw in the dream. We were just in the third dimension. when the dream ended, but certainly they were moved forward beyond that, back to the white light tunnel. For so And this is just a side note. So for the soul vampires, so you can receive those in this lifetime, you could have received those in past lifetimes. This is how some of our duplicate selves end up trapped in the astral realm. Like I said, sometimes you're there because you have trauma and you just don't want to move on, or you're in a low vibration. Sometimes you literally can't move on because you have this curse attached to you. So, um, the removal of soul vampire energy from you and from all your duplicate selves is something that I do as part of the black magic clearing and protection session. So if you've had that done, I've done that work for you. You've had all of your duplicate selves cleared out of there and rescued. Um, if you are interested in having that done, then you could always consider getting the black magic clearing session, which has like, I forget, there's probably like 5 different components to that service. It's a great deal for the money because so many different aspects of work are being done that are really helpful. Um, okay, but I just wanted to make this video to blow your mind that I was seeing literally something called a special kind of friar, which is a monk basically, um, at these California missions. So they were Native Americans. They've been moved on. Um, wow. I had to share this with you guys because I was like typing it in the description and I was like, people are not going to read this. This is important. They need to know. And I'm excited about it because it helps me when I understand the details. Because before I was like, well, I was helping somebody out of the astral realm. And, in my mind, all these details weren't important because for some reason, we do this as human beings. We're like, yeah, I saw a mission and I saw, a bus and I saw whatever it is you see. And you're like, yeah, it wasn't important. It was just a dream. That detail wasn't important. Yes, it was. There are no accidents in your dream. Everything has a meaning, everything has relevance, has importance. Sometimes it just takes time to put all the pieces together. The last thing I expected was what has come out of this. And that's why they told me to write everything down, because if I hadn't written down the dream, I would have forgotten 95% of it by this time in the day. And it's still the same day. I had the dream this morning, but I would have already forgotten it. And so maybe this is kind of a point for all of us that if we write down our dreams and if we give some time to think about them, that we can have these revelations that are really big deals. It's a really big deal to me that Native Americans that suffered at those missions are now set free from that area. That makes me happy. And I understand now why I did it, because at first I was like, because as I go through the dream, I'm experiencing the dream through this like consciousness, like this mind, this body. Like I see scary things and I'm like, oh, this is scary. Like, why am I here? What am I like? I don't want to do this. Right? It's kind of like the fearful small human. But on the soul level, on the higher self level, the higher self is like, yeah, we want to do this. We want to help. Absolutely, we're going to consent to this. Yep. And then, little old me, I'm in the dream and I'm like, why are we here? This is crazy. Why are we in the first dimension? Why are these guys chasing me? Like, what? There's somebody chasing you in your dream. There's a reason they are chasing you in your dream. So take a look at that and see what it is you might have been doing in that dream. In mine, it wasn't very obvious, right? Like I could tell that I was helping those children come through that entry point into the room where it was safe. but I couldn't tell energetically what was going on. I couldn't tell that um, the energy that was cursing them to stay in the astral realm was being taken off of them. It wasn't obvious that we were going to go through the white light afterwards. It wasn't even necessarily obvious that we were in the lower dimensions until I thought about it. And I was like, oh no, that was definitely hell. I was definitely in hell, and that was definitely the devil. And yeah, like, okay, this makes sense now. So, okay, I'm done talking. See, this is why I couldn't have typed this on the descriptions. I think that's everything. Okay, I'm going to. Mm, 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 mm. I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna include this information anyways that I just went over about the missions. I'm gonna include it in writing in case some of you understand better from being able to read how it's spelled out instead of just listening to me pronounce things. So I'll include that for all of you. But I'm excited. I'm glad I finally understood more about this dream. I hope you record your dreams. I hope you start seeing the ways that you are doing work while you are dreaming, 'cause certainly you are. It's just a matter of becoming more aware of it and then taking time to understand the details so that it makes more sense to you. So, this is what I have for you now. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.